Hey guys, my name is Jason. I am the founder of Distress Loan Advisors. If you want to schedule some time with me, there is a link below, or you can go to jasontees.com. Today's video is entitled Why the SBA Needs to Implement Offer and Compromise for EIDL Right Away. Hint, it's not to be nice guys, it's because there's actually a pretty strong business case. So first and foremost, it already exists. Offer and compromise exists for other types of loans. I've been settling SBA 7A loans for the last 15 years. So the SBA really would need to explain to me, why is it okay to settle a 7A loan where you could argue somebody took the money not because of an emergency, but because they wanted to take a risk with a new business or to grow their business or something like that. And so if that doesn't work out, where you're just taking a risk, no one forced you into it, why would EIDL loans where, and look, I'm not getting political or conspiracy theorist on COVID, but COVID forced a lot of people's hands. That's the reality of it. And so when your restaurant was closed, your gym was closed, stuff like that, you had no choice but to take these EIDL loans. And I'm not going to sit here and say it should be free money, because, at the end of the day, people still had to make the decision whether or not to take the money. But I do think that the SBA should take into consideration the circumstances under which these loans were given, and at least give the same consideration to EIDL that they give to 7A, just because why be so wildly inconsistent? Second reason why the SBA really should consider doing offer and compromise. In many cases, the Treasury collection methods are largely ineffective. The SBA is not really suing people, so if you default on your loan, it's unlikely they're going to sue you and get a judgment unless they change the way they're doing things, which means you'll probably end up with a Treasury offset program. And if you've watched any of my videos before, you'll know that Treasury offset does three main things. They garnish wages, 15%, Social Security 15%, and they take your tax refund. Imagine if you're an entrepreneur who doesn't take a salary and you're young enough. I'm 47. I'm not getting Social Security anytime soon. And I always owe money. I never get a refund. So when you have cases like that, the Treasury is getting nothing. And it just doesn't make sense to me. Why would you not take $100,000 on a $500,000 loan rather than refer it to the Treasury and hope that you can, garnish 15% of a salary that doesn't exist? So it just doesn't make sense to me. And I can tell you, over the years, I don't get that many calls from people whose wages are being garnished. More often than not, I just tell people, hey, your cheapest alternative is just to do nothing. If they garnish your wages, it's going to be relatively cheap. So Treasury offset is largely ineffective, especially if they take your tax refund, because that happens once and you learn your lesson, and then you plan your taxes so that you always owe money, you don't get a refund. The next reason, the hardship accommodation plan is not in any way, shape, or form a long-term solution. That is a Band-Aid on a broken leg, right? We can kick the can down the road. We'll give you 10% for 6 months, another 10% for 6 months. That's on top of the 30 months of no payments that were required, at the very beginning. So how much longer are we going to string this out until we recognize that a lot of people don't have the ability to pay these back, and all the hardship accommodation does is delay the inevitable for the vast majority of borrowers. I've had very few people come back to me, and at this point I've probably done about 1,500 consults. I don't think I've had anybody come back to me and say, well, after the hardship I was able to resume operations as normal and I make the regular payment. More often than not, it's I got to the end of the 10%, I can't do 50%. Occasionally, I got to the end of 50%, I can't do 75%. So the hardship accommodation is just a really poor attempt to maybe spread out the delinquencies so they don't get yelled at when they get pulled up in front of Congress, but it's not really solving any problems in the long term. Beyond that, I mentioned business owners need a fair resolution, blah, blah, blah. Here's the big thing. If they're not suing people, then they're not really even taking full advantage of what people signed up for. So in other words, if I took an SBA loan and it carried with it a personal guarantee, if they were suing people and going after their assets, I could see the argument in favor of, hey, we're going to be able to collect a lot more from these people through enforced collection than if we just settle. But they're not even going after people. So I guess my point is, I'm not saying, oh, poor business owners, hey, federal government, out of the goodness of your heart, you should really do this because, they caught a bad break. No, what I'm saying is, I believe that your overall recoveries will be better if you consider offer and compromise. And again, I'm not advocating for blanket loan forgiveness. I'm saying if the opportunity for the federal government exists to collect more money than they otherwise would through the Treasury Offset Program, that's basic math, right? Like that's a business decision. I mean, credit card companies do it. Regular SBA lenders do it. Conventional lenders do it. Even with residential properties, if people do a short sale, they'll negotiate. So my point is, none of these creditors are doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They're doing it because they know that's the best solution. And so I don't understand why the federal government doesn't realize that. In particular, when it already exists, it's not like you have to sell them on the idea. So anyway, that's it for this one. That's my argument. I have no pull with the government. I have no information about whether or not they're going to be implementing the offer and compromise. All I can say is it's a shame that they're not looking into the offer and compromise. And unfortunately, I don't see any amount of calls to senators or petitions or anything like that really changing things. I think a compelling case just needs to be made from a numbers point of view. I don't know if that's been done behind closed doors or not, but it certainly should be. So that's it. Thanks for checking in. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.